That's not God. That's not our God. Our God is our King who comes out to the field because he is so moved to tears by your desire to be there that he will leave the palace to come out to where you are to tell you how welcome you are, how you will be missed if you don't come. They have no business going to a palace. What are they going to do there? Gawk at what's, at the wealth and at the greatness? So yeah, they have no real business being there. They have no job there. They have no function there. But they would so desperately want to be there and coronate the king. That moves the king very deeply. And that's why the king comes out to the field. He comes out to the field to tell all those people that he did hear the cry that nobody else hears. Sometimes the person who's crying doesn't hear it. But the king hears it. So when the king comes and smiles to everybody and makes himself available, it's not that he's trying to inspire the people. He is inspired by the people. And what he's coming to tell them is that what they wish they could do, they can in fact do. Not only are they welcome in the palace, not only do they have permission to come to the coronation, but if they don't come, they'll be missed. Because there's a chair at the table for them, for each one of them. And if you don't show up, it doesn't look good, an empty chair at a king's table. So not only can they come, they must. The king is inspired by them. So what happens when he comes out into the field? He's not inspiring them. They're inspired. He's encouraging them. What's the difference between inspiring and encouraging? To inspire somebody means to move somebody emotionally who is not moved at all. He doesn't care, he's not interested. When you inspire him, you create an interest. What does encouragement mean? You only encourage somebody who already wants, who's trying, who's excited, but discouraged. So the people inspire the king. The king comes out into the field to encourage, not to inspire. So it is, in fact, Ani L'Deidi, we inspire him. How? By wishing we could go, by wishing we could be closer, by wishing that we could see him more and be part of his coronation. So the unheard cry of the field, the king hears it and responds to it. Take a look at the difference. Only a generation ago, the average Jew understood very well, you have no business being in a palace. You are not welcome. You may not, you dare not come in unless you change your clothes, change your behavior, get out of the field, shape up, do tshuva, become great, and then maybe. But if you come as you are, heads will roll. So different. Now the Baal Shem Tov comes along and says, that's not God. That's not our God. Our God is our King who comes out to the field because he is so moved to tears by your desire to be there that he will leave the palace to come out to where you are to tell you how welcome you are, how you will be missed if you don't come. And that's a radical change. As a result, our relationship with God has been radically improved. That changes Elul, it changes Rosh Hashanah, it changes everything. It's completely personal, not judgmental. But there's more. Just another story. This Russian couple came from Russia in the 80s and settled in Minnesota. They were both educated people. She was in the medical world, he was an engineer. But in America, they were too old to get a job, and they had to redo their license or whatever it is. So, very sadly, they supported themselves by cleaning houses, which was terribly sad to see. Dignified, intelligent people, and they're cleaning houses together. So we asked him to come work for us. First day that he was there, of course, I asked him to put on tefillin. He said, no. That's Russian for no. He said, no. That taught it. My father. The second day I asked him again. He said, no, the doctor. That's for the older generation. Anyway, I kept asking him. And I guess he got the impression that if he doesn't do it, he won't have his job anymore. So he agreed. So we're putting on the tefillin, and he makes the bracha, and all of a sudden he starts to cry. Which is not unusual. The Jewish neshama gets. But his reaction was, they taught it. Now all of a sudden it was like, I'm doing what my father did. Yesterday it was, no, my father does that, not me. It's such a perfect example. His neshama was crying to put on the tefillin. But that's my father. He himself didn't hear the cry. But when he finally did put on the tefillin, that's when he realized how much he had been crying the day before and the day before that. So it was the same words, but completely. First, it's a reason not to put on the tefillin, and then it becomes the most exciting part of it. So the people in the field sometimes don't even hear themselves cry. But God does. That is so personal, so intimate and insightful. God is obviously sensitive, paying attention, and knows us better than we know ourselves. Which means there's a certain protocol. For the king to come out to the field is extraordinary. It's not according to protocol. Kings don't roam around in fields. So there's a system of reward and punishment. There's an accounting. You need to know. Are you on the right column or on the left column? On which side of the scale are you? Scales of justice. All of that is very rigid, very proper, very correct. There's no messing around. Judgment is judgment. And there's no room for forgiveness. Like if you're hauled into court and you're accused of a crime, there is no forgiveness, there's no compassion in judgment. The judge has to rule according to the regulations. Otherwise, it's not justice. So what usually happens is the court rules according to the regulations, but then afterwards, a person can throw himself at the mercy of the court. Right? There's such a thing. I'm found guilty. That's according to the rules, according to the law. I am guilty and I'm deserving of whatever consequences. But I throw myself at the mercy of the court and I ask for compassion. I messed up. I'm really sorry, but I need help. I need compassion. But that's beyond the letter of the law. By the letter of the law, justice is justice, the rules are rules, and if you broke the law, if you did the crime, you gotta do the time. A court that decides, oh, you're really a cute kid, and you didn't mean, we'll let you go this time. No, that's not justice. It's not kosher. So what you do is you follow the rules, you come to the proper conclusion according to the rules and regulations. Then you say, you know what? I'm going to commute your crime. I'm going to reduce it to a lesser crime. Whatever it is you want to do out of compassion. But justice is justice. When it comes for a day of judgment, the heavenly courts go to work. The heavenly court is about justice. There's no messing around. Good is rewarded, sin is punished. And there is no leniency, there is no compassion. This is justice. And justice must toe the line. Like if somebody steals a loaf of bread because his nephew is hungry, should he go to jail? Of course he must. What about compassion? Compassion cannot replace judgment. So, when it comes to the day of judgment, and the courts have to decide what's going to be, you don't know which end of the verdict you're going to come out. That's why we ask that God be our judge. Our judgment should come from you, we say to God. You be our judge. Why is that better? God is not limited to justice. It's one of the things he created. He creates kindness, he creates justice, he creates compassion. What is he? He is whatever he wants to be. He is not controlled by the system. He's the creator of the system. So if we can move the case from the courtroom to God himself, we have a much better chance. because God is capable of infinite forgiveness, no matter how strict the judgment is. So is there any sin for which we cannot be forgiven? Justice says, oh yeah. Yeah, there are certain sins unforgivable. Is there any sin you can't do tshuva for? Torah says yes. Yeah. There are sins you can't do tshuva for. Well, what does God say? God is all powerful. He's capable of amazing things. So as far as God is concerned, there is no sin that isn't forgivable, that you can't do tshuva for. So we would much rather be judged by God himself than by the courts. In fact, it's much better to have God judge you than for you to judge yourself. Even you are stricter than God would be. People often find that they did something unforgivable. They're convinced it's unforgivable. Everybody else forgives me, yeah, but I can't forgive myself. We're much harsher than God would ever be, because God is much more capable. I only have so much compassion, even for myself. And certain sins scare the heck out of me, and I committed it. I can't forgive myself. The sin is too intimidating to dismiss it. I heard from people on death row, in jail for many, many years. They say, I should not be alive right now. I do not deserve to be alive. Living is a torture, because they're so convinced that they should not be permitted to live, not after what they did. They are harsher on themselves than God would be, if they do choose. So we would much rather have God be our judge than even the heavenly courts. How do we get God to be our judge? How do we keep it personal? So there's a beautiful example of a princess who needs something from her father. But she knows the rules. She knows all the regulations of the protocol. So she doesn't dare walk into the palace. She goes to her local governor and puts in a petition, asking the governor to deliver the petition to the Minister of the Interior. And the Minister of the Interior passes on the request to the Viceroy of the palace. And the Viceroy, I get the picture. Eventually, they bring it to the king. The king is horrified. And he calls the princess and says, what did you do? She says, I followed the rules. And the king says, the rules are for everybody else. But when you need something from me, don't involve a stranger. Come talk to me. This is a family thing. Don't involve strangers. Not even the palace system or the palace protocol. So we want to go directly to God and not involve strangers, like angels and stuff. The accusing angel, the defending angel, we want to skip all that. Where is my Father? I need to talk to him. Don't send me to no angels. But when do we get to do that? So it depends. If I am functioning in my relationship with God according to protocol, God says I should give tzedakah. And my first question is, how much? Well, at least 1/10. Okay, so 1/10 is enough? Yeah, okay, I'm giving 1/10. It's enough. That's my obligation. I fulfilled my obligation. I'm following rules. I live by the law. It's like this very heavy guy was told to do push-ups. He said, oh, no. I don't do push-ups. Up is not for me. Down. I can sit down. I can wolf it down. But up, no. Down. Because there's a law of gravity, and I follow laws. I'm living by law. So a person says 10%, is that the law? Yeah, okay, fine, I give 10%. What do I need to do to honor my parents? Bring them the food to the table? Okay, I brought them the food. Good enough? Yeah, good, enough. I have to learn Torah. How much? Well, depending on your time, if you can learn a little bit in the morning, a little bit at night. Okay, that's good enough? Good enough. That's what I do. Well, if you're going to live by rules and regulations, then you will be judged by a court that enforces rules and regulations. But if you don't live by the rules, you go beyond. You see somebody hungry, somebody needs help financially, you reach in your pocket and you give. How much? Who's counting? Who's counting? The person needs help, I'm helping. That was a little more than 10% of your income. Whatever. You gotta help. Is it enough? Have I fulfilled my requirement? What requirement? The guy's hungry. So it's not really about me, it's about what needs to be done. You sit down to study Torah because it's a mitzvah to study Torah every day. How much? How much? When I sit down to study, I throw myself into it. I turn off everything else, including the phones, and I'm into studying Torah. I don't watch the clock. Okay, 10 minutes enough? I'm into studying now. Turn the world off. Tell the world to get lost. I'm studying Torah. I'm doing a mitzvah. Don't look at the clock. If you go beyond the letter of the law, then the courts don't know what to do with you. And so they say, go talk to God. We can't handle it. You don't follow the rules. We don't know how to judge you. We want to determine whether you fulfilled your requirements, and you're way out of line. You're beyond the letter of the law. So we have no jurisdiction over you. You're going to have to ask God himself, which is exactly what we want. So in the month of Elul, traditionally, Jews would be a little more attentive to their mitzvahs. They would do a little better than usual. They would go the extra mile because they don't want to have to deal with the heavenly courts. They want to be sent to God himself. Every mitzvah you do it beyond the letter of the law so that the courts can't process you. But don't make up new mitzvahs. Any mitzvah and every mitzvah you do it wholeheartedly, which is beyond the letter of the law. So even if you can't study Torah all day long, but when you're studying, are you there or are you watching the clock? Are you marinating in the study? Or are you just there to fulfill an obligation and get out of there as quickly as possible? The same with every other mitzvah. You go to visit somebody who's not feeling well. You watching the clock? Like, how much time do I have to give this guy? If you're doing that, you're going to be judged by a court. It's your style. You picked it. You live with it. But if you go and you forget what time it is, because you're there for the person. So you thought it would take 20 minutes, turned out to be an hour and a half, which is fine with you because you were really into it. Then the court says, you're like God. You don't follow systems. You're too much like your creator. So go talk to him. He can't handle it. One final story. A guy came to the Rebbe back in Russia. And he said that he was very ill and he needed help. So the Rebbe started giving him the name of a good doctor. A professor. In those days it was called a professor. And the man was shocked. And he says, Rebbe, I was not raised to believe in doctors. I was raised to believe in Rebbes. I didn't come here for a recommendation. I came here to get your blessing. And the Rebbe was very moved by that and gave him a blessing and he was fine. In other words, when he first walked in, okay, there's a protocol. You have a problem, you go to a doctor, you take the medicine. This guy said, no protocols. I'm way beyond that. I have a Rebbe, and I believe in a Rebbe, and I want your blessing. And he said, oh, you're making it personal. Okay, let's be personal. So that's what we're doing in the month of Elul, and for this we need to really thank the Baal Shem Tov, who told us that it's possible, and then the Alter Rebbe, who showed us how it's possible. When the Baal Shem Tov said it, we believed him. When the Alter Rebbe explained it, we understood it. Now, it's real. So we have to approach Rosh Hashanah optimistically. God is going to give us a great new year. And we are in awe of the value of a year of life. And so we are trembling. When you get a gift like that, you got to be responsible. Not exactly a comparison, but your parents buy you a pony. You always wanted a pony. It's your favorite, it's your greatest, you never, but you now have a pony. You got to take care of it, you got to feed it, you got to groom it, you can't just have a pony. The same way, a year of life, much more valuable than a pony. A year of life, you can't just take it. You become responsible. That's awesome. Life is awesome. Not the possibility of dying. That's not awesome. Nothing impressive about a person dying. Anybody can do that. So we're not intimidated by death. We're intimidated by life, but in a positive way. So we ask God, inscribe us in the book of life, which means give us the wisdom to understand life, to make the most of life. Not like last year. We had a year of life and we got 1 month's worth out of it. The rest was kind of wasted. If you add it all up, you got about a month's worth. Don't want to do that again. This year will make every day count. Beyond the letter of the law. That's Rosh Hashanah. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. These ideas, these messages, this approach to life, this approach to Torah, to meaning, and to morals is vital for the world today, and we need to get this message out to the entire world. It is universal, it's essential, it's indispensable. To support this effort, if you want to be a partner in this crime, check out the link and make a donation. It really helps a lot. And thank you in advance.